I'm very happy to introduce my old friend and colleague, Clive Dyson. Clive, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and why we're doing an interview?
I think we're doing the interview mainly because I'm very involved in toy making and all kinds of arts and crafts. I've been making toys for about 7 years. I've done a lot of things in my whole life, a lot of jobs, activities, and it has caused me some pain in many ways because up until about 4 years ago, I'd always felt that I'd been a failure because I'd never been able to stick at anything. And I read a book by Barbara Sher, which says refuse to choose. And in this book, she says there are two kinds of people. People who can stick at one thing for their whole life. They start off as a child really enjoying some subject, and then they carry on right through life with that one thing. And then there are people like me who are scanners. We tend to go over a whole range of subjects, and we don't give up because because going gets tough, but we give up because we get bored. We do a thing to death, so to think, and then we'll go on to something else, and then something else, and maybe we'll come back to the thing we were originally doing. And that's been the whole story of my life. I've stuck with toy making for 7 years, and I'm still thoroughly enjoying it, but I'm also doing other forms of creative work too. Somebody said to me when I was a kid, when I was growing up, my father said, "Why don't you choose something and stick to it?" And I tried to, but I just couldn't make it work. And so I've come to the conclusion that I am a scanner and that I enjoy doing lots of different things. And now that's the way I've been wired. So that's where I am.
The last time we did an interview, Clive, you told us about the huge range of jobs you'd done, and that interview was almost 2 years ago, and I honestly I couldn't think that time had gone so quickly. But one of the very impressive things about when we made contact again after a long time, since we'd served together in the South Island as Methodist ministers, one of the huge things that impressed me was what you do as a toy maker, and you run a website called the Kiwi Toy Maker, and we're going to look at some of the projects that you do. But very briefly, before we get on to that, just tell us a little bit about how you take toys that you've made out into the community and what you do with those toys that you've developed.
Right. I belong to a group called the Santa Claus Workshop, and that's a group of about 10 of us retired people, and the group meets on Mondays and Wednesdays from about 8 till 12:30, 8:30 till 12 rather, and we make toys, wooden toys. And last December, we gave away 1,500 toys to underprivileged kids. People like kids whose parents are in prison, or people who've only got one parent or haven't got enough for Christmas anyway. And we pack up these toys, and various organisations come to the workshop in November and pick up these toys and distribute them to these kids. Because it's about 35 minutes away and I have all my own tools, I work from home and occasionally make trips into town and deliver 50 or so toys and then come back and make some more. So that's how we've been doing it. I have made some for the church, and we've sold them on a stall. Sometimes if I see somebody who's in need, I'll just give them one of the toys that I've made. Runs a holiday program, and I was given the task of running a wood workshop for 2 hours with kids from 7 to 11, And I was trying to think, well, what can we make that's non-gender specific? So I came up with these dinosaurs. And what I did, I cut out all the parts and drew around them, around where the legs go, and put double-sided tape on each side, because kids are very impatient and they can't wait for the glue to dry. So what we did, they glued the legs and then stuck it on, and the sellotape held it tight while it dried. And then the kids painted them, and they were very wild, some of the colours. And but they were really impressed with the time. It took them about an hour to do the job and another hour to paint them, and we got some weird and wonderful colours. So that's just one way that we've been able to use these toys to help kids. There are about 20
What
of
a
them.
great idea to get kids involved in a holiday program where they're, you know, a very tactile kind of thing. So woodworking is not quite what you would expect at a holiday program. You might expect some painting or possibly some other things, but actually working with wood like that, that's a great idea. Today in church was Peace Sunday, and we had some young people who made the cranes for Hiroshima Day, and this kind of artwork, craft work, is very tactile as well, and the congregation, every member of the congregation was given one of these cranes, and a very moving story of how a young Japanese girl who had been born after Hiroshima developed leukemia at the age of 12, I think they said. They told the story extremely effectively. And as she developed leukemia, she had a vision that she should try and make 1,000 of these paper cranes, but she died at 651 or whatever. So a very powerful and moving story to illustrate the theme of peace. But the Kiwi Toy Maker site that you run and the work that you do, I think, is a marvellous illustration of what Christian ingenuity and creativity is all about.
Yes, this started because a friend of mine came, and her grandson, who's 3 years old, was very fond of Fireman Sam. And she asked me if I could make a fire engine, Fireman Sam's fire engine. Well, to be quite honest, I'd never heard of Fireman Sam. And so I went on Google Images and I saw this fire engine. And so I took a screenshot of it and put it into Inkscape and drew some plans from it. And then I cut it out with scroll saw and various other things. When she took it home to him, he was absolutely beside himself for his birthday. And he took it to bed with him. He said goodnight to it. Everywhere he went, it went with him. And unfortunately, one of the wheel stays came loose, and he was most upset. And so she said she'd take it to the doctor. So she brought it to me, and I found one of the design faults, so I fixed it up. I put a bandage around it, and she took it home, and he took the bandage off, and he's still loving it. But it's about 600 long, or about 300 high, and the ladder goes up and down, and so it's quite tight. But no, it's really good. I've only made 3 of them, but they take quite a time.
They're a lovely looking model, and a lot of children would be, really want that as a toy.
Mm.
Clive, you'll be you'll put the plan eventually into the Toy Maker website, so some of our participants in Kiwi Connection that have got an interest in woodworking would be able to download the plan and do that for themselves.
Yeah, the website is just a Facebook page called the Kiwi Toy Maker. It's not an actual website as such. It's just a Facebook page attached to my own page.
Right. So we'll put a link to that in the YouTube video that comes out from this recording. Okay, let's move on to another one of your projects, and this is a beautiful nativity scene. How does this come about, and how's it?
Well, I've been making these for about 30 or 40 years. Every church that I've been to, I've always made them a set. The figures are about 4 foot high, and they're just cut out of particle board or chipboard, and as you can see, they're on stands, and they just stand up. And the church I'm at, this is a Rangiora one, and at the end of the Christmas season, they wrap it in bubble wrap and put it away and keep it for the next year. So
you must get a tremendous feeling of joy seeing this come out, in different church contexts.
Yeah, I don't know whether some of the churches are still using them. Probably not, but they do. At least Rangiora's using it, so that's good.
Would there ever be any plans for that if there were a group that were interested?
Actually, I got the patterns from a book that I bought hundreds of years ago. It's a book of children's Sunday school plans, and I've just scaled up the whole drawings. I could put I don't quite know how to go around about copyright, but it's for Sunday school leaders to use. So I could put the name of the book, or failing that, people could write to me and I'll send them a copy of the pages.
Right. Well, actually, just putting the name of the book would be great. We could put that in because I think that's a kind of a project that there'd be some people really interested in doing that, and they stand about 4 foot high, so they're not sort of domineering. No. Excellent. Let's have a look at another one of the Kiwi Toy Makers projects. Now, this has nothing to do with church, I suspect.
No, we live in a farming community, and my grandson had one of these toys years ago, and somebody asked if they could have one, because the guy who used to build them has since died. So I took measurements, and I made it. The gate's open, and there's a ramp you can see on the left-hand side of the screen there. It goes up to, it's a loading ramp. All the gates open and close. And it's been quite funny when I usually make a couple of model sheep to put in with it. And the kids always go for the sheep, and they bounce them up and down, But the parents, they do the gates. I always try to open and close the gate. So, but that's been quite a popular thing too. That I do sell, but generally the kids love it, particularly being in a farming area.
And how big is what are the dimensions of the sheep yard?
The sheep yard is 600 by 400, basically, millimeters. The gates or the fences are about 80 millimeters high. It's made out of 7mm ply and pine, and the rails are black birch. And I don't use nails if I can help it. What happens is I glue them on, and I buy toothpicks and drill holes and slot the toothpicks in, then cut it off flush. That means that if anything does happen, the kids don't get hurt with something very sharp. I take the points off, of course. So that's basically what it is.
How long would it take you to make a sheep yard?
I could probably make one in a day, but to paint it and to all the gates and all the fences are oiled. And but once I've got the plans set out, just a matter of drilling the holes and cutting all the pieces. And yeah, I think a day would 8 hours would cut it out. Just
Right,
one.
just one. Okay. Now, the last project that I want to highlight is, again, it's out of the rural scene. Tell us about this one, please, Clive.
Oh, this is a stable. You can see to the left of the screen there's a brown bit of carpet. That's the paddock, and the green part is the where the horses come out of the stables. The lid comes off the stables, so inside you've got where they can hang the harness and the bridles and things like that. The stalls, inside the stalls you've got one wall and two rails, so that it looks very much like a real stable. The whole thing is screwed down to the baseboard. Again, the fences are all, this time they're all plain with square posts. The green and the other is that artificial carpet, artificial grass, and chains as well. So the measurements, I think that one's about 750 mils by 500, I think. 700 by 5, I think so. I'd have to look at my plans. But that's just out of my soon.
Right. So, how long would this take? Would this be more than a day's project? This?
Yeah, I think this probably be about a day and a half. Yeah.
Do others in your group, you mentioned there were a dozen or so, 15 maybe, do they make identical projects or they do different ones?
They do different ones, yeah. These are just my own ones. They make things like jigsaw puzzles and the carts with the blocks, pull along toys, games, Chinese checkers and things like that. There's a wide range of toys that they make.
Right. Clive, that leads in very nicely to what I want to ask you, because you're not just the Kiwi Toy Maker, you also do videos, and initially we showed one of your oil paintings as well. There's something about the creative impulse, this is what I find, that when we start to look at things with our eyes, not just as objects, but how these objects work in the space or the context they're in, their colours, their shapes, the sort of space around them, that to me this is being a kind of creator, or it's the creative impulse in its purest form. One's looking not to just take it, if I can put it this way, we're not just taking a photograph as a record, but rather we're trying to find the essence of the thing and create things around it. Do you feel that? Do you feel that creative impulse?
Yeah, I do. As a Christian, I think we're called to create. And you get a lot of people saying, oh, I haven't got a creative bone in my body. Well, I don't believe that, because anything we do is creating, even if it's cooking a meal, an ordinary meal, that's creating. And people have said to me, oh, look, I couldn't even draw a straight line. Well, when you look at in nature, God doesn't draw straight lines. There is no straight line in nature. And so this whole straight line idea is man-made. And, we're called to, there's this creative spark within us that calls us to make something, to carry on what the Creator has started. And that's why I find I love to be making something or doing something like that. To me, I hope I don't get into trouble here, but watching sport is the biggest bore in the life for me, because I'm not a spectator. I've got to become involved, and I've got to make things and create things with my own hands. That's just me. I'm not saying watching sport's wrong, don't get it, but no, it's I love creating. And
Yeah, and I see that in all the sort of Christian activity that a lot of people do. A lot of people in congregations, even in today's world, where everything can be bought, many Christian people still want to be involved in fundamental acts of creation. They want to paint pictures, they want to decorate things in the church, they want to paint the buildings, maintain things. All of these are, I think, part of the God-given understanding of what it is to create in the way that the Creator creates. It's gifting.
There's one other thing I want to say there too, that with God, there is no such thing as waste. And for example, my wife, she knits these things. She knits booties, and she gives these away. This is from wool that's been thrown out or given to her, and she knits about 300 pairs of these booties and hats and things a year just to give away. And so here was creating using waste materials, stuff that would be taken. All my toys are made from scrap wood, and things like plywood I have to buy, but all the pine is all scrap. The Remu that I make some toys with is old chest of drawers, and that's just me. I just love recycling as well, and doing what the Creator does. He recycles.
A few viewer comments in, Clive, about Christian activities that congregations can undertake. One idea that is very new is called the Repair Cafe, and the Takapuna Methodist Church apparently have started a place where you can go and get goods repaired, any kinds of goods, and church members donate their skill and their time, I guess, in that initiative. But Stuart Mannins, who's a musician, makes a comment that anything that we create and share together, be it toys, music, whatever, he says that's a worthwhile activity. That is, if I put it in my terms, that is a godly thing to do. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. First of all, the Santa Claus workshop started off 40 years ago by 3 retired builders taking in toys and repairing them. They just advertised for any toys to repair, and they got quite a lot of people giving their toys, and that's how they started. They moved from repairing toys to making their own plans, and so this repairing thing is a very useful way to get started. Also, I'm reminded, when Stuart says about whatever we share and with others is worthwhile, I'm reminded of the story of the person walking along the beach with someone else, and there are all these starfish on the shore, on the sand, and he wanted to make a difference, and his friend said, "Oh, you'll never get rid of all these starfish. You'll never make a difference." And so he picked up one starfish and threw it into the sea. He said, "I made a difference to that one." If we do it one at a time, if we make a difference in one person's life by sharing something with them, giving them something that we've made, or helping them to learn how to do something, that's worthwhile. We don't have to go on these great big campaigns to save the world. Just one at a time makes a whale of a difference.
That's a fantastic thought to draw our meeting to a close. But what I would like to do is just come back to this oil painting of yours that I think you did a number of years ago, and it's fresh, it's vivid, it's painted in a very painterly kind of way. Do you still paint? Do you still draw?
I do paint and draw occasionally, not very often. Most of my work is now digital, making movies and animations and things like this, and the woodwork. I've still got my paint, but I think they're probably a bit dried up by now. But no, I don't. I don't do a lot of it. Um, I know I should, but I haven't got time. There's only 24 hours in the day.
That's a great way to end. I want to say thank you very much. This is the second interview with the Kiwi Toy Maker, and how much we appreciate the fact that you've given your time. And hopefully we'll be able to get all of this into Kiwi Connection and YouTube in the next couple of days. So thanks again, Clive, and all the very best.